Welcome back, everybody. Today's deep dive is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We're diving into a story that's been feeding stomachs and souls for like centuries.
Right.
The tale of manna from the book of Exodus.
Nice.
We're going to uncover how this ancient story about food in the desert has some surprisingly relevant lessons for us in the 21st century.
Definitely. I think it's so fascinating how these, seemingly simple stories from millennia ago
Right.
can still speak to the human condition today.
Totally. So to set the scene,
Yeah.
the Israelites have just escaped slavery in Egypt.
Okay.
They're free, but now they're wandering in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Anyone who's ever been on a road trip
Right.
with a rumbling stomach knows that's when things can get a little tense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hunger can make anyone a bit grumpy.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what happens with the Israelites. They start longing for the good old days.
Right.
Even the food they had as slaves in Egypt.
Interesting.
Talk about forgetting what's truly important.
Like complaining about the cafeteria food after you graduate college.
Exactly.
It wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But the memory plays tricks on you.
Oh, yeah.
So what does God do in response to all this grumbling? Does he airdrop a feast from the heavens?
Not quite a feast, but pretty close.
Okay.
Every morning, a bread-like substance called manna miraculously appears on the ground.
Wow.
Enough to feed everyone.
Okay.
It's a powerful image of divine provision,
Right.
demonstrating that even in the most desolate circumstances, there's a source of sustenance.
Okay, but I'm sensing a catch.
Yeah.
God isn't one for handing out free lunches without a lesson attached, right?
Exactly. You see, the Israelites are instructed to gather
Okay.
only enough manna for each day,
Gotcha.
except for the day before the Sabbath,
Mhm.
their day of rest,
Okay.
when they're supposed to gather double.
So 2 days worth.
Right. This simple rule, I think, is where things start to get really interesting.
Yeah, I can already see the human nature dilemmas popping up.
Oh, for sure. You see, this wasn't just about feeding their physical hunger.
Right.
It was a test of faith,
Mm-hmm.
a challenge to trust that tomorrow would be taken care of.
Yeah.
It was about resisting the urge to hoard,
Okay.
to control, to worry about the future.
Interesting. So what happens when inevitably some folks didn't follow the rules? Did they end up with a manna surplus?
Let's just say those who tried to stockpile extra manna
Okay.
learn a rather unpleasant lesson about trusting the divine plan.
Oh.
That extra manna they'd so carefully gathered,
Yeah.
spoiled overnight, worm-infested, not exactly a gourmet breakfast.
That's a pretty vivid image.
Yeah.
And what about those who tried to work around the system?
Right.
Maybe sneak out on the Sabbath to grab a little extra.
They found absolutely nothing.
Wow.
The manna simply didn't appear on the Sabbath.
Really?
It was a powerful reminder that even in the midst of scarcity, rest is essential.
So it seems like this story is about a lot more than just filling bellies. It's about something deeper.
Yeah.
Maybe about trusting that we'll be provided for even when things look uncertain.
Precisely. The story of manna is a profound lesson in trust and obedience.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we often don't need more than what we're given,
Right.
and that trying to control things beyond our grasp
Yeah,
can lead to, well, a whole lot of mess.
for sure.
Yeah, it really is. And that message is just as relevant for us today as it was for the Israelites thousands of years ago. After all, we're all wandering through a different kind of desert, aren't we? Facing challenges,
Yeah.
uncertainties, and temptations every day.
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the things we might be taking for granted.
Right.
Like, what's our manna today?
Right.
It might not be literal food falling from the sky,
All right.
but there are certainly things we rely on often without even realizing it.
Absolutely. Think about our health,
Yeah.
our relationships, the roof over our heads, even the technology that allows us to connect with each other. These are all forms of modern-day manna gifts that we often forget to appreciate until they're threatened.
Right. So what happens when we start hoarding our modern manna?
Yeah.
When we become so focused on accumulating more money, more possessions, more status, that we forget to be grateful for what we already have.
That's when we start to see the parallels with those Israelites who tried to stockpile extra manna.
Okay.
We might find ourselves feeling anxious, stressed, and ultimately unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Just like that spoiled manna, Our relentless pursuit of more
Right.
can leave us feeling empty and dissatisfied.
It's like we're so busy gathering that we forget to actually savor what we've collected.
Exactly. And that's where the Sabbath principle comes in.
Okay.
This ancient practice of carving out a day of rest
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just about religious observance, it was a radical act of resistance against the relentless drive for productivity and acquisition.
I think that's something we could all benefit from.
Right.
In our always-on hustle culture,
Yes.
we've become so obsessed with maximizing every minute of our day
Yeah.
that we've forgotten the importance of simply being.
Precisely. And the consequences of neglecting rest are significant.
For sure.
Burnout, anxiety, even physical health problems can arise when we fail to prioritize downtime.
Oh, wow.
It's like we're trying to gather manna 7 days a week and it's leaving us exhausted and depleted.
So how do we apply this ancient wisdom to our modern lives?
Right.
Are we all supposed to drop everything and become hermits?
Not necessarily, but we can certainly draw inspiration from the Sabbath principle.
Okay.
It's about consciously creating space for rest and rejuvenation,
Yeah.
even if it's just for a few hours each week. It's about recognizing our limits and choosing to prioritize our well-being.
Right.
Even when the world is telling us to do more, be more, have more.
And that ties back beautifully to the whole gather only what you need idea.
Exactly.
The Israelites were given enough for each day, a stark contrast to our modern consumerist culture that constantly bombards us with messages about needing the latest, greatest, biggest, best.
You're absolutely right. It makes you wonder what would happen if we applied the manna principle to our spending habits.
Yeah.
Imagine living in a world where you only bought what you truly needed.
Wow.
No Black Friday stampedes, no overflowing closets, no constant pressure to keep up with the Joneses.
It's a radical idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
To find contentment in having enough rather than always striving for more.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the key to unlocking a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment.
I think you're on to something. It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance, recognizing that true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in our capacity for gratitude, generosity, and connection.
And that sense of connection, I think, is also deeply rooted in the manna story.
Yeah.
The Israelites' daily gathering of manna was a tangible reminder of God's provision and faithfulness.
Right.
It nurtured their faith and resilience in the face of uncertainty.
That's such a crucial point. We all need those manna moments.
Yeah.
Those practices or experiences that nourish our souls and remind us of what truly matters.
Right.
Especially when life throws us curveballs.
Makes you wonder what those manna moments look like in our modern world.
Yeah.
What are the things that help us stay grounded and hopeful when things get tough?
It's different for everyone, of course.
Yeah.
For some, it might be spending time in nature, reconnecting with the quiet beauty of the world around us.
Right.
For others, it might be through creative expression,
Oh.
music, art writing,
Yeah.
anything that allows us to tap into that deeper sense of self.
I love that. It's about finding those practices that nourish our spirits and remind us that there's more to life than just the daily grind.
Exactly.
Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's volunteering,
Yeah.
maybe it's simply having a meaningful conversation with a loved one.
Exactly. It's about those small but significant acts that connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
Whether it's a community, a cause, or a spiritual belief. These are the things that sustain us, that give us the strength to keep going when things get tough.
It's like creating our own daily rituals of gratitude and connection.
Yeah.
Our own modern-day manna gathering.
Precisely. And these rituals, just like the manna for the Israelites, can be a powerful source of resilience,
Okay.
helping us navigate the uncertainties of life with a greater sense of purpose and peace.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From ancient food stories to modern-day life lessons. It's amazing how relevant these ancient texts can be.
It really is. The story of manna might seem simple on the surface, but it holds a wealth of wisdom for anyone seeking a more balanced and meaningful life.
So to wrap things up, dear listener, we've explored how the story of manna is more than just a tale about food.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes less is more. That true abundance lies in gratitude, contentment, and trust.
And as you go about your day, I invite you to consider this. Where in your life could you benefit from focusing on enough rather than always wanting more? What are your manna moments, those practices that nourish your soul and help you stay grounded in the midst of life's challenges?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
Because when we shift our focus from scarcity to abundance, from striving to gratitude, We open ourselves up to a world of possibilities,
Totally.
a world where we can find true contentment, peace, and maybe even a little bit of magic in our own lives.
Beautifully said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those nuggets of wisdom that make life richer and more meaningful.